commercial passengers going to gate A or B or anything like that. From everything we understand, and you can see Air Force 2 here from Chopper 5, is that the Vice President, that the airplane will land and stop at the Utah Air National Guard base. That is typically where we see dignitaries of his stature when the president visits. They usually go to the Utah Air National Guard base there, and that's everything we're hearing from our sources, is that that's where Vice President JD Vance, his wife, and other dignitaries will be as well. Now, as far as their visit, we are expecting, of course, that he will meet with Utah dignitaries such as the governor and other lawmakers and such, as is customary with a visit such as this one. But his main reason here to visit Utah today, of course, as we all know, is not just to meet with dignitaries, but to be here for the death of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was shot yesterday on the campus of Utah Valley University. His body, from everything we were told, is at the medical examiner's office. That body will be escorted by law enforcement here to the Utah Air National Guard, to where he will, the family and friends of Charlie Kirk and the body, that's why JD Vance is here. Everybody will get on Air Force 2, which will leave here from Salt Lake City and then head down towards Phoenix. It's the Phoenix area where the Kirks lived, his wife and kids. It's also where he had his organization there, TP USA, Turning Point USA, was based in downtown Phoenix. That's the reason for the flight from Salt Lake City to Phoenix. Of course, Charlie Kirk, very well known in the conservative circles, not just the conservative circles, but known throughout, no matter what side you're on. Charlie Kirk was a well-known name. He also had a very good relationship with Vice President Vance and with President Donald Trump. We heard the president speak about how sorrowful and tragic the shooting was yesterday here in Utah, and part of the reason why that is happening here today, why the Vice President is here to pick him up. Now, right back here, if you can see our camera from the ground, if you switch over to that, I think this is Air Force 2 coming in for landing right now here at Salt Lake City, just about to touch down here, the Vice President, his wife, and other dignitaries on board that plane coming in. Now, as this is happening, there has been a TFR, a temporary flight restriction, in place here at the Salt Lake City Airport beginning at about 1:30. That's basically where if you're not having air traffic control supervision, you could not land. You could not take off from here unless it was an emergency or medical. Now, with the Vice President landing and Air Force 2 coming in, pretty much all operations here at the airport is suspended during this actual landing. As we're watching the Vice President and Air Force 2 come in now, it looks like they have touched down, I believe, here in Utah. Again, it's not the visit anybody was expecting today. It's not something that the Vice President was planning on coming here yesterday morning, but after the events of yesterday on the campus of Utah Valley University is why you're seeing so much attention and so much gravity to the situation after the death of Charlie Kirk. We don't expect the Vice President to actually leave the Air National Guard base. From everything we're being told, it doesn't look like he will leave the base and head into Salt Lake City at all. That this is expected to be a relatively quick stop here at the Utah Air National Guard base to, as we are hearing, meet with some Utah dignitaries, meet with the governor and others, and then meet with Charlie Kirk's now widow and children and friends and other family to escort them back to the Phoenix, Arizona area. That is Air Force 2 pulling in here and heading, as we expected, right to the Utah Air National Guard base. It's in that area where that nose of the airplane is kind of pointing to right now, near that area. We did not think that they would get anywhere near Salt Lake City International Airport, the actual building itself, the terminals. It is making its turn there in front of the Air National Guard building. We have video again from Chopper 5 seeing Air Force 2 coming in here and landing. Ashley, it's just one of those things we didn't really anticipate was going to happen. But after the relationship Charlie Kirk has with this administration, it's just one of those signs that the administration wanted to show the family that Charlie Kirk and his family, that they are supported, that they believed in their mission, and that they wanted to respect everything going on to escort them back to Phoenix. So, Ashley, let's send it back to you for now.
Yeah, Alex, no doubt. We've learned a lot about Charlie Kirk, his life, the mission that everything he stood for in the last 24 hours. That post that Vice President JD Vance made about Charlie, and you can just tell they were friends, and so you can only imagine the emotion going through the Vance family and really the administration. in the last day. You know, you're on the ground there. You mentioned that he won't be, it seems like he won't be leaving the ground. He won't be going into downtown or to Orem where the shooting took place. Do you know if Kirk's family is on the ground there? Do you see, you know, any sign of the family being there and being close to where Vice President Vance might be coming down to meet with them?
You know, Ashley, we have not seen that from our location here, but there are also other vantage points. I know there are a lot of media also set up in front of the Utah Air National Guard building. And let me see, our photographer, Mark, I don't know if he could see, if we go down towards 2200 West by the Radisson Hotel here, kind of where in the area we are, you can see a lot of Salt Lake City police cars. I know there are a lot of, it might be tough to see, but I mean, there are dozens of law enforcement cars that are here getting ready to do any type of escort from the Kirk family, friends, anything like that, to maybe escort them to the Utah Air National Guard base. But as far as actually seeing the family or anything like that at this point, that is not something we have witnessed ourselves. We don't know the exact route, and sometimes that information is being kept, you know, under the wraps a little, being kept secret, especially after the events of yesterday. There were no public announcements, you know, public meetings as far as media being invited to anything with today's ceremonies or today's events or anything like that. Everything that we have heard, that this was a quick stop, picking up Charlie Kirk's family, friends, his body, and then escorting them to Phoenix, Arizona, where the Kirks lived and where TPUSA is based.
And Alex, you had mentioned, you know, the medical examiner now has Charlie Kirk's body. Have you seen any type of indication that his body is close now to the Salt Lake International Airport or near where you are? Anything on the roadways that would indicate that?
Yeah, not at this point. I think when that does happen, Ashley, when the body gets closer and such, when it's on its way, we will certainly see a lot more activity pick up out there with the law enforcement cars that will do some of the escort. Everything we've also heard from some of the NBC News reporting is that there are a lot of law enforcement as well near the medical examiner's office getting ready to do that escort. We saw the Utah Department of Public Safety helicopter lift off about 20-30 minutes ago to head toward the Taylorsville area. We don't know if that will be part of the procession as well as part of the escort to bring Kirk and the family here. But we have noticed things have ramped up in the last 20 minutes as the airplane came down. There's some Utah Highway Patrol members here behind me, and just a lot of activity and a lot of people out here too just wanting to witness this event and to be a part of it. And Ashley, you mentioned something like JD Vance and Charlie Kirk were very close. I remember hearing something a little bit about when President Trump was running in his second term and was trying to choose a vice presidential candidate, that Charlie Kirk was really influential in advocating for JD Vance. So JD Vance certainly was very close with Charlie Kirk. They shared a lot of the same ideologies, a lot of the same passion, a lot of the same thoughts. And JD Vance, Vice President Vance, he enjoyed what Charlie Kirk was doing on college campuses, connecting with that younger crowd and that younger audience. Sometimes we hear from the younger generation that politicians are just older. They don't feel that connection. They feel like there's a gap missing there between some of the senior politicians and then, you know, young adults coming up through college. But Charlie Kirk was very good at that, very good at having those campus debates, very good at having those meetings and connecting with that young crowd. It's why yesterday when we were interviewing students, and not even students at UVU, but young people who were just coming to UVU to be a part of that debate, to hear that debate, whether they agreed with Charlie Kirk or not, a lot of people wanted to come to just hear what he had to say. You didn't have to believe in what Charlie Kirk was speaking about, but you could believe in the message to at least having open minds and expanding your thoughts and expanding your minds to hear different ideas, different policies, different thoughts about things. And one thing I heard from students we spoke with on both sides is that maybe that is how you come together. Instead of being one way left and that's it, or one way right and that's it, maybe if you started hearing each other and understanding a little bit why each side is on a particular side, maybe you would come around to that understanding. And that's something that a lot of students said that Charlie Kirk provided, that he shared, that he broadened their minds with something like that. And I think that's something that JD Vance connected with, because Vance, younger himself as political people go, especially on his level, I'm sure he identified a lot with what Charlie Kirk had to say. So you saw President Trump's words about what a tragedy this is and what a dark day this is, and how much Charlie Kirk meant to the country, especially with those that believed in everything Charlie Kirk had to say. So this here today at Salt Lake City is just another sign of how much the current administration loved Charlie Kirk and loved what he had to say, and sending the vice president here on a day like 9/11, where so many thoughts could be elsewhere, and so many thoughts should be elsewhere, of course, with the anniversary of 9/11, the terrorist attacks in New York and D.C. and in Pennsylvania, the tragedies of the airplanes. The administration thought enough of Charlie Kirk that on this particular day, the vice president of the United States would come here to pick up the body, to meet with the family and friends, and to then take them down to Phoenix, Arizona, where they are from. That says a lot about this relationship between Charlie Kirk and this administration, Ashley.
Yeah, no doubt. And you touched on this, Alex. It is surreal to see Air Force 2 touch down on the ground here in our great state,
yeah,
and not be celebrating it. This isn't something we wanted. This isn't something that we want our state to be known for, and it is heartbreaking to see. We do have a live shot right now just outside of the national base. Another perspective of where Alex is. You can see the American flags. Alex, you mentioned the feel on the ground there. People wanted to be there to support Charlie Kirk's family.
Right.
Tell me about what's happening on the ground, the feel, and what you're seeing as far as media, but also, people that wanted to see this day.
Right, and we noticed that from quite a few people, that there were a few people out here, and still are. I mean, where we are, it's mostly media as I look around. But a little further out, and where we were earlier today, there were people here who aren't in media. They're not in politics, but they believe they wanted to show their support and their thanks for the Vice President of the United States coming here in order to do what he's doing. I spoke with one guy who took the day off of work because he felt strong enough that he wanted to be here. He knows he probably won't meet the Vice President. He knows he probably won't see the festivities or the events or any of what's going on at the Utah Air National Guard base, but he says that didn't matter. He just wanted to be here to show his support for what's going on. There was also another woman who was in a wheelchair on the corner where I saw the Salt Lake City
and
Police.
Alex,
where I showed
we do want to interrupt really quickly, just to let our viewers know. So what they're seeing right now, what we are all seeing, is there are people coming off of Air Force 2. We don't know exactly who those people are, but it looks like they're headed toward the front of the plane. There's a big black SUV. Alex, it looks like people now are coming down the front stairs and the back stairs. From your vantage point, can you see any of this movement? Do you see any action kind of headed more toward the plane to possibly pick up the people that are coming off of the aircraft?
Yeah, Ashley, I wish we did have that vantage point so we could show you that from another ground here, but there is this big hangar that is in our way over here. There are a couple of other vantage points around the area, but some of the private aviation companies that are here, they put up some de-icing trucks and such to block any views from the public to be able to see exactly what's going on. So this is one of the better vantage points we had. We didn't know if we'd even be able to see the airplane land, but we were able to see that. But exactly what's going on back there right now, we just don't have that view from where we are, Ashley.
And you talked about how we are not expecting the Vice President to be leaving basically the tarmac or the hangar there. It doesn't look like, as what we're seeing from Chopper 5, it doesn't look like there's a huge group to greet the Vice President. Alex, do you happen to know, who would be on the ground to greet him? Have you seen or heard of any Utah officials being there to greet the Vice President?
From everything that I have heard, that it would be a small delegation here to meet the Vice President. I mean, we expect, of course, Governor Spencer Cox to be there. I don't know if Senator Mike Lee or Burgess Owens or some of the others will be there as well. I did reach out to some of their offices, and plans of that weren't being publicly shared at this point. But we also understand that this wouldn't be a very large greeting type of thing, because this wasn't a typical visitation by a president or vice president where you would see a large crowd here to meet him. This was it's a solemn event, it's a respectful event, and it is a quick event. Look, it's the Vice President. He didn't come here necessarily to chat with Utah officials, to talk about debating things or policies or how things are going. This is where the tragedy happened yesterday. It was where the vice president could pick up Charlie Kirk's body and meet with his family, and then head down to Phoenix. So I wouldn't expect there to be a large gathering. Of course, there will be some people here to meet the vice president. It would be quite awkward and odd if the vice president came here and didn't meet with the state's governor. So I would expect the governor to be there. But as far as a big handshake, picture, photo op type thing, I think that would be very low key in this event, Ashley.
No doubt, Alex. Thank you. And, from what we're seeing, we now see a second large SUV pulling up to the aircraft. We can only wonder, who is in there and what's being said. We don't exactly know where Charlie Kirk's wife and children or, extended family are. But this is a live shot we have of the medical examiner's office in Taylorsville. We don't see much movement there as well. So again, trying to piece together where exactly the route will be going. But Alex, I just saw, in your live shot, there were some families, it seemed like, some kids running across, possibly to catch a glimpse of what's going on. I would love to talk to you if you're, open to this. Talk to me about the people that you spoke with yesterday, about what this will mean for Utah, for the students that were at UVU. I know that, again, we're going to keep live on these live shots. We understand the SUV next to Air Force 2 is leaving. But as we see these images, talk to us about kind of the feel of yesterday in the last 24 hours and what this will mean for Utah.
Yeah, that's such a good question and such a good thing to talk about, Ashley, and how this will affect people going forward. We just don't know. I mean, unfortunately, gun violence is common in the United States. Covering a shooting death isn't something new. But on this level, it is shocking. It is something that hopefully makes everybody pause and really think about what's going on. That's something I heard a lot from students yesterday. Like I said, a lot of students who didn't believe in Charlie Kirk or the right side, they still wanted to come to this event because they said a college campus is where you should have these debates and these conversations and to broaden your minds. When the shooting happened, a lot of the people we spoke with, at first they couldn't believe what happened. They couldn't believe. It's almost as if they were like, did that really happen? Did I really hear a gunshot? Did I really see Charlie Kirk go down? We spoke with one student who said they thought it was a stunt. They thought it was a prank or maybe part of the show, only to realize later, no, this is very real. And when people start yelling gun, active shooter, run, a lot of people said they froze. A lot of people immediately started running. I think in these situations, when you hear a gunshot, everybody thinks, oh, I know, I'll run immediately. I'll get out of there. But when it actually happens, it's almost you don't believe that it happened. And it really takes a few seconds for the gravity of the situation to set in. That's what quite a few students told us. But then the running began. One thing that really gives you hope in something like this when the running happened is that a lot of students who ran away started coming back after helping their friends get out of there. A lot of students started coming back to help others get out of there. There were some elderly people or those who might be a little mobility challenged. Those students and other people would come to help each other get out of there. And that's where you got a little glimmer of hope that it didn't matter if the person they were coming back for was on the left side or the right side, conservative, liberal. That didn't matter. At that point, it was humanity to help somebody in need, to get them out to safety. That brings tears to your eyes when you start thinking about this, is that a lot of people ran back toward danger because at that moment you don't know if there were going to be more gunshots. You don't know if there are other shooters. You just don't know. But still you wanted to help people get out of there. So a lot of students were talking about that. And as far as going forward, I mean, we asked some of the students, would you feel safe coming back on campus again? And a lot of them said, well, yeah, we feel safe, especially after hearing from Governor Cox yesterday that this was a targeted attack. This was a political assassination. It wasn't as if the shooter came on campus to cause harm to students or to anybody. This was politically motivated, and it was a targeted attack. Some students said even hearing that made them know that this wasn't like some of the other shootings that we heard on campuses across the country, that there was one target. Even still being there in the middle of some of this stuff, it does make you aware of your surroundings, no doubt about that. You start looking around when you're in a public place. You look at rooftops, and so yeah, going forward, we hope that things can change. But I think the students are strong and they are getting mental health help. And I think a lot of students who believe in what Charlie Kirk had to say, they're proud of seeing the Vice President showing the attention today by coming here to meet with the family. Ashley.
Yeah, an unsettling feeling the last 24 hours. But the one word that you just said that we all need to hold on to, right? Hope. No doubt we're going to feel that throughout our state, as we always do. Again, we did see, if you're just joining us, JD Vance, Vice President JD Vance, landing in Air Force 2 here in Salt Lake, not expected to leave the tarmac there. We did see some movement. We don't know exactly the details of what this visit will look like, but we do believe that he's here to meet with Charlie Kirk's family and to eventually help bring his body home to Arizona, our neighboring state. Again, we're going to continue to follow this. We do know of a press conference. We understand Department of Public Safety announcing that the FBI Director Patel, is en route to Orem. We'll, of course, carry that and give you all the latest information on the murder of Charlie Kirk.